Good morning. Welcome to another edition of MasterMind Minutes. My name's Gary Occhigrosso. I am the founder and managing partner for Franchise Growth Solutions, as you see back here. If you want to know more about us, you can click the link above or below the webcast, depending on which platform you're watching. And MasterMind Minutes is a webcast designed to give you an expert answer in minutes, not hours, as we say. It's one guest, one question, one answer. And of course, you can always contact our guest afterwards if you have more questions regarding the topic that we discussed today. And today, actually, my guest is an associate friend, Chris Viscup, who is a mergers and acquisitions consultant with Transworld Business Advisors in Brooklyn West. Chris has been on the M&A side of business transactions for over 6 years. He works with lower middle market transactions, doing lower middle market transactions for companies valued between 5 million and 100 million. And what he says is he uses his experience, insight, negotiating methods to assemble deals that create win-win scenarios for both buyers and sellers. And he can tell us more about his background. Chris, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Gary. I'm good.
Good. Why don't you, before we hit you with the one question, why don't you tell us a little bit more about your background, a little bit more about Transworld and your life in the M&A sphere?
Sure. So, hey guys, Chris Viscup here. I'm sure you know that already. So I work in two capacities, right? For over 5 million up to $100 million deals. I work as an M&A consultant, and for more Main Street businesses, mom and pops and whatnot, under 5 million, I work as a business broker. So, I've been with Transworld now for about 5 years and doing this whole thing for a little over 6. So, but yeah, so I'm happy to lend any kind of hand as far as how I could help people here today and have them understand the mechanics of the current marketplace. But in general, what I do is for sellers and for buyers, I help them either sell their business or buy the business that they're looking for. And we're pretty industry agnostic. So, it goes pretty much runs the gamut, right? So we, you name it, we pretty much dealt with the industry: wholesale, retail, restaurant, aviation, education, recycling, you name it. Like I said, we've pretty much been in that industry at one time or another. So I'm sure we could help you with an exit strategy, whether or not it's something that's imminent on your mind or something that's further in the future. And I've known Gary for a few years now, and so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. And Chris and I have done a few transactions together, mostly on the restaurant side, because those of you who follow me on social media or here at the webcast, that's kind of my sweet spot. I do work with non-restaurant clients, but most of my clients are restaurant clients. So, Chris, I think, as you mentioned here, you kind of run the gamut of the different types of businesses that you deal with, and you're kind of out there on the street, so to speak, every day, looking at people who are buying, looking at people who are selling. We've had a lot of conversation about, the current pandemic. Certainly earlier on in the crisis, we were talking about, what to do like now and during. But I think what's happening now is we're starting to kind of come out of this, and we're seeing the world reopening. But generally speaking, now, maybe in the future, what are you seeing, maybe as a result of the pandemic, I don't know, or just the general decline in the economy that we've seen, but what are you seeing as opportunities for both buyers and sellers as we move forward?
Sure. So, a lot of people that you'll speak to now think that gear, so to speak, is the needle rather shifting more towards a buyer's market. Maybe so. I'm seeing good things happen for both buyers and sellers here. First of all, on the seller side, you have a lot of people that are up there, just looking, hovering kind of around retirement age, not sure what they want to do. And this might serve as the catalyst. And actually, as we've seen, looks like it's serving as a catalyst to kind of make that jump, because sometimes, it's not easy letting go of your baby, and that baby being obviously your business, right? So, and this is kind of hey, it puts things in perspective when you really think about it, right? It's something that it's a virus, and people are actually out there getting sick, right? So, obviously, what we're seeing is that at the moment, there's more people looking or thinking now, maybe more than ever before that they'd like to sell. And as such, we are having a lot of, our doors knocked on with buyers, more with certain industries. Particularly, you're looking at like your online spaces, maybe, wholesale, and maybe not so much because supply chain issues and whatnot. Retail a little bit less, but certain industries definitely, we have our buyers lined up, and buyers are looking for deals right now too, right? Because they want to go ahead and take advantage of this and maybe getting a better deal. Also doesn't mean that a seller or whatever seller that's out there has to go ahead and give away like everything, right? So we just closed a deal a couple weeks ago where there was a little bit of movement, and we have a couple other deals that are actually closing within the next month or so, where there's literally no movement as far as the overall ask terms and everything else. So, like I said, there's deals out there to be had for both for buyers, and at the same time, sellers, the natural question that comes for a lot of sellers at this time is hey, maybe it's not the time to sell my business. Like, I really want to sell it now, but I can't because I have to wait till this is over. And, how long is that going to take, right? It's going to take maybe 2 years, 3 years. And is your business going to be devalued? Are you going to run into the ground? Is the economy maybe going to run a little bit into the ground? And not so much just to the economy itself, like, when you don't have the passion for it anymore, right? And, it's just become kind of like a noose around your neck a little bit. And you really like for instance, if you were looking to sell it this year anyway, you should probably still proceed, with doing that, right? Because at the end of the day, by you waiting isn't exactly helping, right? So a lot of fearful, a little gun shy. They want to do it more than ever before. Some people that weren't thinking that they wanted to do it before now are thinking that they want to do it as in sell. But then the question comes up, oh, maybe not now. Now's not the time, or whatever, right? Because you have this thing, obviously, as we all know, everybody's getting PPP, EIDL, right? And just certain terms in there. And actually, with some of the contracts that we're doing, there needs to be a certain amount of time where the seller of the business or the current owner has to actually, pay out to employees and in time, right? I think it's about 8 weeks or so. So we're coming up on contracts here where it's like, how does it change hands, during that time if it's before in order for that seller to get that grant from PPP. Now that's what we have attorneys for, right? So I mean, I think connect with a good attorney. We here at Transworld could obviously recommend a lot of people, that would be decent to help you transition your business, or if you're looking to buy one as well. But there are ways and there's mechanics around this, right? So it's not the end all be all, right? This is just, part of the process, right? There's a hurdle at the moment, right? And that hurdle is coronavirus, but as such, it opens up a lot of door of opportunity for a lot of buyers, and B, a lot of sellers to finally realize, hey, this is actually the time for me, right? Let me move on. Let me move, particularly if you're close to retirement, and if you're up in the Northeast corridor and you wanted to get out of Dodge, maybe move to Florida or something, now might be that time for you. So it doesn't mean that you have to, literally, take a bath and sell the business for near to nothing. Like I said, that if anything, thus far, the deals we've done have been quite, the contrary to that. The only times the mechanisms have changed a little bit is like when maybe if there's a seller note involved, it might get deferred, but you're still getting paid.
Right.
In addition to that, one of the beauties is through the CARES Act, and for buyers, you have something called the SBA 7A loans, really for acquisitions in our new businesses. And up until September 27th, a new incoming buyer on a business can get up to 6 months of, theoretically a grant, both in principal and interest of the first 10 years of a loan. So that's 5% off the entire purchase price right there. And we're getting a lot of buyers that are interested in various businesses, particularly businesses that have really good books, that are looking to strike and look at the close, before that deadline. Now, who knows? Maybe they'll push that deadline back a little bit, and but I wouldn't wait. If you have something you want to put on, I'd go for it. If I was a buyer.
It sounds like there's a lot of moving parts, and that's why I always tell the folks who are watching listening on our new podcast distribution, actually, to get in touch with our guest, get in touch with Chris. But before I kind of give you contact information here, I just, if I'm hearing you, what I'm summing up is a few things. First of all, that for a seller, the time is now. It's always, if you're going to sell. Hemming and hawing isn't really going to get you one. You're not moving the ball down the court. And besides, there's never an endless or a bottomless pit to buyers. It just so happens that on the buy side, there are people who are looking to buy because maybe from a buyer's point of view, they're thinking there's a lot of opportunities, but what the buyers need to learn is that it's not a fire sale. Sellers aren't just giving stuff away. Right. And then from given the things that you mentioned about, which I didn't even think about going into this interview and into this question, things like the PPP and the CARE Act, and, some of these other, government things that are in place now that you need to really guide your buyers and sellers kind of in the workarounds and how that actually works so that, the lawyers don't have, endless discussions about it, and that the buyer and the seller actually can get the deal done, and that everyone is kind of protected and happy. So, look, I guess what I would emphasize is there's more to this than just, hey, I like that business, here's a check. And that's why, I urge my audience to give Chris a call over at Transworld. Or hit him up on his website or email address. Chris, what's the best way for folks? Oh, by the way, let me just say this. We always post, your contact information on the webcast, but why don't you tell us the best way to get in touch with you?
Sure. So either email or phone. Phone is 914-843-9074. Goes directly to my cell. And then the email is cviskup@tworld.com, and it's C like Charlie, V like Victor, I like India, S like Sierra, K like Kilo, U like Uniform, P like Papa, @tworld, T like Tango, and the word world.com.
Great. Well, Chris, thank you very much for being with us today. Truly appreciate the advice. I know the listeners appreciate the advice. It is a good time to get involved in selling or buying a business, and I want to underscore that. And for those of you who are interested in doing that, please get in touch with a professional, get in touch with someone like Chris, because if you try to do it on your own, as you just heard in just a few minutes, there's obviously a lot of moving parts, as I said earlier, to this, and Chris can really help you navigate that. Chris, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks, Gary.
Today.
And just a couple things to add. Well, first of all, actually, it's something that I've been telling people too, particularly if you're a seller. Right now, the buyers that are out there, have a good amount of fortitude, right? So
obviously, yes.
If they're going ahead and putting an offer down on your business during this time, it basically, the cream rises to the crop sort of thing. And there's some people out there that have that, so it's a good time, in that case if you're selling. And also, let's face it, like if you have a smaller business and you have somebody that, working a corporate job, got laid off, they're looking to make moves now too, and your business might be that move, particularly in the smaller businesses, right? Where you don't have, like, say, the equity groups looking, and the equity groups are also looking when it comes to, some of the larger businesses, right? Everybody's looking for a silver lining and opportunity in this. And the question is, where are you going to be?
Right. Well, that's why I think it's a great time. And again, for the folks watching and listening, don't hesitate. Get in touch with Chris. Chris, again, thank you very much. And I hope to see you in person pretty soon.
All right. Thanks,
all right.
Gary.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
Bye. You too.